Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin joins me here on the North Lawn. Mr. Secretary, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
So the budget this week, you have a vote coming up. Are you confident that you have the votes to get the budget first before you get tax reform?
Well, I think we're very comfortable with where we are with the budget, and we're looking forward to the Senate passing it tomorrow.
You think Senator Paul can get there?
We'll see. I know the president's had multiple conversations, and I hope he votes in favor, because this is critical. This isn't just about tax reform. This is about jobs and creating economic growth, and that's what we're focused on.
A lot of people are focused on also the timeline. You know, originally back when you thought August was that, and then health care took a long time. Last time we talked, you thought into the fall and possibly before the winter. House Speaker Ryan is saying Christmas deadline. Is that realistic?
Well, Brett, as you know, it took Ronald Reagan over 2 years on a bipartisan basis to get tax reform done. So if we get tax reform done this year, it will be extraordinary. And that's our objective. Our objective is to get it on the president's desk by December to get him to sign it this year.
And it seemed like the president and Senator McConnell were laying the groundwork for the possibility it goes into 2018.
Well, we're going to work on this as fast as we can, but there's no artificial deadline. It's about getting it passed. And I've said all along, this is a pass-fail exercise, and we've got to get it done to create economic growth and create a competitive business system.
Let's go to specifics. The White House Council of Economic Advisors issued a forecast of an average income bump of as much as $9,000 for American families based on the projected corporate tax cut. How do you get there? Doesn't that depend on what these companies do with that extra money, that increased revenue? I mean, what's to prevent them from taking the profits and bonuses and not reinvesting?
Well, Kevin Hassett and others have done great research on this. And, Brett, I think, as you know, we have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. We tax on worldwide income. We have this concept of deferral. If you leave the money offshore, you don't pay taxes. So trillions of dollars are sitting offshore. And this is all about making American business competitive. And, you know, I've repeated this, that over 70% of this is passed on to the worker, that the corporate tax is borne by the worker. Kevin Hassett, the CEA, has done the research, and there's going to be a lot of other economists who come out along with that.
You've said the corporate tax at 20% is kind of that's not going to change.
It is. That's our bottom line, because we need to do that to make it competitive.
So where's the wiggle room? Is it on the state and local taxes?
Well, I think, as we've said all along, our objective has been to get rid of a lot of deductions and bringing down the rates. And on the state and local taxes, we fundamentally think that the federal government should get out of business of subsidizing the states. But that's something we're working very closely with the House and Senate on.
It sounds like it might be a negotiating point.
I would say everything's negotiable to get this done.
Minus corporate tax.
Minus the corporate tax. But let me just say, going back to SALT, it's not that SALT is negotiable. What we're focused on right now is making tweaks to the system to make sure that we have a middle-income tax cut and that people in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and others aren't hurt too much by the elimination of state and local deductions.
You've talked a lot about growth and really getting this economic engine going. There are concerns up on Capitol Hill from deficit hawks. Are you concerned that you can get them over the finish line if, you know, you have Senator Corker saying he's not going to vote for any tax reform that raises the deficit at all?
Well, Senator Corker has been very helpful. He was critical to getting the budget out of committee. I've gone through the numbers with him. Again, this is relatively simple math. We hope to have a budget that's $1.5 trillion in reconciliation. As we've said before, there's $500 billion, $500 billion of difference, $500 billion, $500 billion between baseline and policy. That takes us down to $1 trillion, and there's $2 to $2.5 trillion of growth. So we're pretty comfortable this will be $1 trillion positive, paying down the deficit by the time we get done with this.
How do you think you need to get Democrats on board, looking at the landscape you have now? And how do you do that?
I think we'd like to. I mean, I was at dinner last night, on a bipartisan dinner with Democrats and Republican senators. We were talking about the tax plan. The issues that we're talking about are middle-income tax cuts, making business competitive. I hope that's something that Democrats understand just as much as Republicans.
What about repatriation? Is it going to be completely separate from infrastructure? Are you still talking about tying repatriation of those dollars coming back to some infrastructure?
Well, at the end of the day, cash is fungible, and we're looking at everything as revenues and expenses. But I think these are two very complicated issues. The president absolutely wants to get infrastructure done. That's a huge, critical priority of his. But I think it's just too complicated to put it together with taxes.
You're talking about timing. We haven't seen a lot of details yet. Obviously, you're dealing in details with Capitol Hill. When do you think that all of it is going to kind of roll out?
Brett, our expectation is if the budget gets passed tomorrow night, which we expect it to, it would go into conference with the House. As soon as the budget comes out of conference, our expectation is both the House and the Senate will be releasing virtually all the details of the bill, and we'll be working on it closely with them.
What about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Do you think that has a future?
I think it has a future, but it has a future in a significantly smaller way. Consumer protection is important, but we got to get rid of a lot of the rules that are just hindering the economy and growth at the time. In
the wake of Equifax, it seemed like perhaps there's going to be a call for it more.
Well, that's actually something we had a FIBIC, which is the group that we meet across the regulators and across the agencies today on cybersecurity. Obviously, cybersecurity is a huge issue. I just finished the G7 and G20 meetings here. That was a major issue. And we're obviously very concerned about the Equifax breach and making sure that this doesn't occur again.
The head, Richard Cordray, is considering, we're told, to run for Ohio governor. So could the president then appoint someone new?
Absolutely. Cordray's term is up next year. We'll see whether he serves it out or not, but we'll be replacing him either way.
Last thing. Deficit and debt, concern about the national debt. If the engine of the economy really starts churning, it sets into a motion perhaps an inflationary environment. If interest rate goes up 1%, the U.S. starts paying more on interest on the national debt than we do for defense. The concern for the national debt going up in this environment, how serious is it?
Well, Brett, as you know, we are concerned about the debt. We've gone from $10 trillion to $20 trillion under the last administration, and we want to put in place economic programs that will pay down the debt over time. That's something that's very important.
Mr. Secretary, we appreciate the time.
Great to see you.
As always.
Thank you.